Da popper den opp I hvert fall.
Ja, hvis jeg tror du bare trykker enter. Hvis du bare...
Hello.
Ja, der ja. Der du på direkte, da.
Ja, men så fint. Ja.
Tror jeg. Ja, der den der. Ja, så bra.
Ser dere meg?
Vi ser deg, vet du.
Hvis du vrir kameraet rundt. Ja. Ja. Fint, da det noen par minutter igjen der. Ja. Ja, jeg må jo ha jakken her. Det fortsatt ikke flere enn. Ja, nei, men jeg må jo slå den på her for den saks skyld. Men jeg kan eventuelt snakke med dere etterpå. Ja. Fint da. Ha det. Yes, we're almost ready. We are doing a live. And we have a minute or two left. Getting people to come in on Instagram and YouTube. Yeah. Hello. We are almost ready. Good. Let's get all situated here. Hello. We got some people in the space today. Here we are. Oh, I got some pictures from. Oh, we have a video too now. Ooh, good. Wow, this is amazing. We had a soft opening of our space on Hövik last Wednesday. And now, then I was there, and we had some people online and yeah, Hövik physically there. And we had some good feedback, people tuning in. And now I'm in Chicago. So now we have people on computers, different places in LA, different places in Norway, and also at Hövik. So that's kind of like in the hard opening. It's the first time I'm on a screen in this room. Yes, and that is beautiful. So that is like a new space. I've been doing these online Wednesdays for a while, maybe a year or two, because there's a support in awakening and opening the body and opening the energy. There's a support in it and now we just had a retreat about a week and a half ago. And some people felt really kind of knocked down and like kind of depleted of energy, just tired afterwards. Some people got a little sick, some people get like emotional, or different energies are coming up. And then that's why sometimes when we open more light inside, we also become more aware of the darkness. So the journey that I've kind of done for the last almost 20, 25, 30 years has been one of kind of opening the energy body, opening the body, realizing that we can kind of relax, and that this relaxation kind of goes deeper, goes in kind of phases, levels. And that is what, when you're gathered here in the physical room of Hövik, or in your own bed, or wherever you are, the intention is to kind of, sink back, receive. It is like when you kind of pay a little donation, you kind of give something to the space and you dare to show up. It is so simple to show up that everything we kind of put intention will kind of help us become aware. So it is kind of, we bring our light into any space. And when I realized that we can bring light into our body, we can bring awareness into our body, then as I discovered this, then I started applying it, then my body started changing. It was a journey of starting to kind of softening. So it is kind of from going from the kind of the masculine of like the ego, where you kind of survive life. You work hard and you survive, and you kind of break away and you kind of just make it. It's either a making it or surviving. So then we're kind of activating like fight and flight, and that is kind of where the ego is. Like we come into this world, and then we kind of we're almost forced into the world. We're kind of like stumbling in, like the music I put on the thingy. We're like literally stumbling into this world. So we get kind of overwhelmed with the emotions of our mom and dad, and we get with all their sayings like, oh, in our family we get these diseases, in our family we have these issues, and in our family we have these financial issues, and in this family we have these gifts. So our parents start to like kind of in a way brainwash or tell us. And since they're like, well, you're my son or you're my daughter, they kind of start expecting us to kind of engage and to kind of commit to that. So then eventually it starts seeping in. We start this expectancy from the loved ones, our friends, our family, all this. And we start to feel this expectancy that we kind of have to abide, and we have to kind of follow their guidance, follow their rules, follow their wisdom. And then every family's wisdom is different. So then we kind of see that every family is kind of different, and they start to seem to be like, oh yeah, they have those kinds of inherited issues, those kinds of emotional issues, inherited emotions, those kinds of mental inherited issues. So then when I kind of started seeing that my body was at an age of 21 starting chiropractic school, that it was kind of this stiffness, this tension inside my body that I could see on an X-ray. Then I realized that, because before that I just felt like people talking about sickness and emotional problems, that was just not me. If I felt a little sick, I just shut it off, and I just like, nope, not taking it in, just letting it, kind of shutting it down. And then emotions, that was just like, nope, shutting it down. Kind of like, you can hear, oh, you are so fortunate. You have your mom home, or you have, good upbringing, good family, and you are fortunate. So then you can shut them down. So that's how we get trained. We get trained to kind of shut out the body, shut out the emotions, shut out the mind, just focus. Don't just go to school. Go to school, just go, survive, push through. Because it's going to be important, and you're going to have to get through this and get yourself a husband or a wife or kids and family and all this stuff. But then, so then you like at the age of 21, I felt like, oh, wow, I feel pretty good. I'm like good at soccer, good at stuff. Got into chiropractic school. We just made it happen. It's in the military, just made it happen. But then when I suddenly took x-rays of my spine, realizing that, ooh, that's weird. My body is a little bit like an old person with this degeneration in my spine. That kind of just didn't make sense with my idea of life. So then I started going into kind of a surprise of, wait, what is going on? How can this be happening? And then when there was like different philosophies, chiropractic, like go and get your neck cracked, or Tai Chi that I also met, that go and like do all these kind of breathing or like movement to relax, all these different philosophies of health. While it made me curious, which is curiosity is what I call this talk today. It made me curious to realize that there was, different ways of looking at it, not just medicine of sickness and bacteria and germs and blood and DNA, but that you could literally look at it from like a spine, from the nervous system, from kind of, getting kind of a healing. As a chiropractor, it's kind of like you're getting fixed. So in a way, that is kind of what we're tapping into here, is kind of allowing yourself to kind of tune in. Because then when I realized that my body was kind of tense, it must be because the x-ray says so. And then my Tai Chi teacher said kind of like, whoa, you have to kind of drop your shoulders. They're kind of tense. And that I didn't really feel this. That means that we can have a body and we don't have to feel it. I was never thought to feel it. I could just do soccer, do martial arts, do work. But then that there was somewhere else, another way to tune into your body, a way that I didn't totally understand. So I didn't totally kind of connect with it. And it didn't come natural to me. So then but as I kind of realized that there was, and I had to trust that there was something else there, that's kind of where we are now these times. We start to see that there's more and more issues coming up. More people are being on sick leave, or people are getting ADHD or different issues. People don't necessarily just want to go to school just because they want to. People break away and they don't believe, or they don't trust, or whatnot. Then that kind of gave a different way of looking at reality. That, wow, maybe if I connect with the body in a different way, then my shoulders will drop, and then I would maybe connect with this stiffness in my spine. Maybe then that was where I started, just with that stiffness. That seemed to be like something that I wasn't aware of, so I started there. And then when I suddenly had an out-of-body experience, it's kind of that, in the trust and the faith to a teacher, I really realized that I had to dare to let go of where I stood. Like you guys do now, in a way, dare to listen to what I'm saying, dare to kind of receive that gift, that experience that I've had as I've kind of passed on, and that I see that it wasn't something unique to me. It was something that people can kind of tune into. So that's why people have come to me, because I've kind of realized that there's an intention to tuning in. There's attention to awakening. That intention was what I kind of had this out-of-body experience, where I suddenly could see myself from the outside, like relaxing. It wasn't something I could do. So as when I talk about this, I don't talk about something, how do you breathe, or how do you do, or how do you stretch. It's more showing up, and then maybe you just lay back and listen, and dare to kind of let yourself open to the potential. So then it kind of becomes like a guided meditation, so to speak, a guided way, guided path towards that which is faith, that of faith, that which is to dare to trust that something we don't experience, that we don't necessarily believe in, might be true. So then we kind of, when I realized and had that experience, then I realized there was a connection to my body now that I was connecting. And then I realized, wow, maybe this will lead my body to open and become more whole. And in chiropractic, they talk about if you don't use every joint in your body, it can produce calcification. It can start to degenerate. So then if we start to kind of engage and feel and be in our body more, then the body can start to hold itself differently. It can start relaxing, and then the body can start softening. So that was kind of the path I started undertaking. So it was the curiosity that led me to like, wow, I was given this tool, this realization. I was seeing myself that in my being I was relaxed, and that seemingly in that union with my body, as I relax, the body relaxes. Now the body, as I am in my body, in my being, which is naturally neutral and at ease, then you would see this in the body, that it would start to engage and relax in this way. So then as I started to engage with this, then I realized after a while, so some months, suddenly I started experiencing this pain coming up in a headache. And that was weird because I never really had headaches either. Remember, everything physical, I just been able to just suppress or push aside. I never thought it was suppressed. I just thought it was, you don't need it. I didn't realize that I was also not kind of allowing it in and to be with it. So I realized that, yeah, as I started to kind of have, on the breaks between like trimesters, suddenly I started getting sick. But it was like when I needed it, when I was on vacation. So it was perfect. I've been kind of, working hard and having all these tests. And then suddenly I'm going home to Norway. And then suddenly I get sick. And I was kind of sad. But in the same time, suddenly I started to realize, wait, maybe to be sick is a way for the body to decompress and release. I've never really been sick before. I never was like gone from school ever, or never sick ever, really. And then suddenly, like, well, last time was probably when I was like, 1 year old or something. But so then I started to get sick, and then so that was like a different way, like, wow, like sickness and getting a cold and stuff, that's the way. And I realized I don't have to push it aside. Maybe I could just allow it to be there as a way of kind of, maybe that's the body's way of releasing. So I've had some people coming in here and suddenly they can get sick or suddenly get a cold after a Wisdom Wednesday or like a one-on-one or a retreat, and because suddenly then the body needs some time to release the release and the adjustment that is happening. So from there, I kind of suddenly I had this headache, which was confusing. I never had headaches in my life, but then I realized maybe that is part of this. So I stayed curious. Instead of because it felt like there was a communication. It's kind of like when you see a bird, or you can be like, I can't speak bird, but then bird language, but then suddenly you're curious and you might just put down some food and you might start having an interaction. So, like animals, we sometimes like, oh, they respond to us. When you remain curious and not like, we don't look angry or sad, we kind of stay open. So it's that curiousness that is kind of an essence of our being. It's that curiousness to be like, well, maybe not everything is just like scripted. This is how it is. This is wrong. This is right. But maybe maybe there is another space that can be growing in this. So then after a while, I suddenly had this feeling that it was this headache wasn't going away, and it was weird. It kind of came every morning and it disappeared after a few hours. And then But then like suddenly I read something in a book one day, and I was just thinking, why isn't this headache going away? Why does it keep coming back? It's weird. And then suddenly in that book, I just opened up and read on pain and said like the importance of going to bed with like a happy, with happiness in mind, or with a happy heart. And then I realized, just in that moment, I just saw myself when I go to bed, those 10 last moments, like minutes before, like in bed, I realized I was almost just complaining about she doesn't like me, or school is too hard, or why do we have to have that test, and like everything. There was this complaining, this anger. And I realized I was angry, and then I could see myself falling asleep, but it was almost like I brought this anger with me into the night. So I realized that I never really thought I was angry or emotional at all, but now I saw that, wow, this complaining, there was an energy to it, there was an anger to it, and this anger had energy. And when I hold on to energy, then of course my body's going to tense. So in the morning, I of course wake up with a headache. Seems like, aha, it was like eureka. What? This is weird. I never really knew that I had emotions. I thought just emotions, that just something my mom has, or women, just are so dramatic, and I just push it aside. But now I realized I was pushing it. So on a deeper level, it was almost like parts of my being, parts of my body was revealing itself, these deeper layers of awareness, deepest layer of consciousness that my body was aware of and responding to, but that I kind of had just pushed aside. So it's almost like we have all these thoughts, but we kind of just put them aside, but we haven't released them. We wonder about them, curious. We're curious about them, but we kind of just keep them there, and then we're still holding on to them, and it's still affecting us. So then when I realized that, wow, this anger, just these 10 minutes were affecting my body, tensing my body so much. And I had never been aware of it before. I realized that, wow, so many other levels of emotions probably. Now I realized all these emotions that I've heard rumors about. Nervousness, like panic, love, sadness, desire, all these emotions. I never really felt like I engaged with them. But then I realized I probably just pushed them aside a long time ago. And now I realized that the journey was I could release them, and I could see them and transform them, and let them kind of become part. I can free up this energy and find a way of being that was more relaxed. So that kind of started. I realized that journey takes time, because I have to discover all these parts of myself that I had kind of rejected. There's like an identity. I was a man. I had no emotions. So I had that, identity. Other people had like, I want to be in emotions all the time. Like my mom was like always sad. I always felt like for 50 years she was always sad about my brother becoming deaf. So she had a different identity, was holding on, and I was suppressing. And she was indulging, but you could see that either side was not releasing. It was still holding on to in one way or another, unconsciously in our body. So then that kind of started this journey. It kind of became, wow, curious to be like, wow, I'm going to discover all these emotions, all these states of being, all these like parts, these pains of my body. It's like a humbling journey, but then it's also kind of exciting, because it seems like nobody's really doing this. It seemed like there was something kind of new here that we could literally tune into. Let's go a little down. There we are. And we see my beautiful little crest here. And you see my book here. Got a few of my books. But yeah, start talking about something complete different. Just to kind of, our minds go into kind of into the space. It is what these are. They're like, I'm not just talking about it because it's understanding. It is kind of, I'm kind of guiding you to a place. And then you have to dare to kind of, that's where like the donation or giving back, because it's almost like you have to dare to allow yourself to kind of tap in and be present in that space and join me in on this journey. As I kind of, when I came back as a chiropractor, I realized that most people, I could like release their tension, but the tension keeps coming back in their neck or in the low back or different stuff. And people still seem, and most chiropractors I see are still having the same lock in their neck or in their back or whatnot. They have them for like, yeah, some of my friends, they have the same one for 40 years. and then for me, I realized that as I started engaging this, it was almost like my body was softening, my skin was softening, my joints were softening. And this curiosity kind of became, you start listening different when all these emotions and all these tensions inside are like kind of like radio channels. But if we're holding on to all these radio channels at the same time, it creates all this background noise. So we can't really hear what's going on. There's all this static. instead of allowing it to kind of like clear the channel, and then you can hear more clearly what's going on. So I started like releasing these, then allowing it to kind of come into the body, but also not just, because we have a tendency to either indulge or suppress. The journey was more of seeing it and allowing it and trusting in the process, trusting in this wisdom, and to kind of engage with it in a different way, and kind of letting it kind of resolve. So it's a different intention. The intention was kind of like what led me having this out-of-body experience. And the intention was kind of, when all these emotions, and pains in the body can feel kind of intense. But then instead of thinking about it as just a wrong, or you don't that, and that's my mom's, and that's because of my grandma, and that's because of work and all that stuff. But if you don't always label them, and we give time like we do now on Wisdom Wednesdays, is to kind of allow to be with this space and to engage with it in a different way, then we can kind of take it in. And that's what we're doing here. We're kind of opening us up to a different way of looking, perceiving this reality. And that to look at something differently, you kind of have to be open. You have to be curious. So when there's some new people here today, and that's fun. And there's always new people popping on an Instagram or YouTube as well, but watching this later. But that curiosity to see, wow, maybe there's more to life. Maybe there's more that we haven't figured out yet. And then maybe these emotions, maybe this feeling of victimhood, maybe these pains, these problems that we have, I have to eat like this, or I have to do that, and this is how I focus on sick. That there is a different way of being with all these things. And that is where we come in here, that curiosity, that openness, that daring to like, yeah, what if this is true? What if there's something here? And what if I can't tap into it just by like saying, I know, and I'm going to figure it out, but maybe it's more just about showing up. So I've had people come here with some Wednesday online, but now we also have a physical space of just showing up. And when you just show up, there's this beauty. It's like so effortless. It's just like coming to a dinner party or with friends. It's like family. You just show up And that's kind of like more of a feminine teaching. It's just not so much a doing, but just a partaking. You still have to put your money or your time in your space and say, like, okay, I'm going to show up. Whether it's live or it's later. I have some people watching it later at night, and they're kind of tuning in because there is an energy here that you might not necessarily feel as I talk about it, because it takes time to kind of tune in and feel these things, just like it took a while for me to clear out this body. The body's still kind of elevating and clearing and expanding, just as this space at Turvik and online here. There's a guidance coming in. And if you are not yet laid back and got a little blanket on you and kind of just close your eyes, maybe it's time, because we kind of go into the second part where you kind of just, we literally are like allowing, it's almost like a silence, that energy, that consciousness of ourselves that we have available just as a little baby. It's just kind of aware and curious. Have I said curious enough today? Curiosity. And if you need to listen to it again, you can. It's going to be on YouTube or on Instagram. So that is the beauty of tapping into once in a while. But yeah, so kind of let yourself kind of close your eyes and just kind of sit back and kind of there's an energy coming in, there's a relaxation, and there's an ease coming in. Sometimes this feels just like a wind. And there suddenly came all this wind last night as we kind of started opening the space, started yesterday. And then it kind of comes in. And that you might become suddenly aware of your breath in your nose, your nostrils, or the sounds of a car driving past, or the stillness in the space. Then you might drop your shoulders a little bit, your arms are just like stretch like a cat. You just want to stretch out your arms or your wrists, your fingers. You can kind of let them kind of crack a little bit and just let them kind of rest on your belly or on your side of your body. And then it kind of comes in even more. It keeps moving down. It's like a lightness into your head, into your chest, into your into your hips, into your belly. It's like you want to maybe lift your hips a little bit, kind of let them kind of grab the floor, lay down more in the back, sink in. It's almost like that tailbone. You just kind of let it just drop down a little bit more. There can be some pain, or there can be some coldness, cool wind, or heat, or kind of like a stiffness coming into your hips or into your thighs. As you start to kind of open up the legs, open up the hip, and kind of dropping it down. And like kind of let it, like opening up your knees a little bit, letting them kind of shake loose and kind of dropping them forward. As you kind of let your belly kind of and your groin kind of drop forward down into the ground. And you kind of can become the stiffness or tension in your hip, in your right hip, or in your thigh, and then it can move there's this gate starting to move down into the ground. It's just like kind of like pooping, like somebody was like on the toilet all the time, like kind of becoming getting a cold. It's like we're opening up this gate from the butt down into the ground, down into the ground, down into your knees, into your ankles, down into your feet. And letting it kind of just rest there, kind of just letting it, closing your eyes and just like letting yourself sink there. Let the energy just kind of drop down. And then it kind of becomes quiet as we kind of allow the energy to kind of come in and like kind of sinking into our roots. So it's almost like we kind of use the arms, legs as roots that is connected, and our energy body is like around us. And then as we kind of drop down, there's like a breath, just the wind going down. And then it starts to kind of fill up again. Up, kind of like a coolness or an itchiness coming up into your feet, up between your legs, up into your butt, your groin, filling you, opening up your chest, opening up your shoulders. Opening up into your head, up into your jaw. As you open up the jaw, relaxing the jaw, opening up into your head, to your eyes, into your forehead. And it kind of just releases out, up through the head. It's almost like a headache just pushing up. So there's that release there. It kind of goes through the circle when we kind of digest energy. It's like eating a food. And it kind of comes around. So that is kind of where we can open up your eyes again and start shaking loose. And it's like letting it kind of pass and letting it magically just kind of and curiously just move through. The energy of us is kind of so magical and so normal that we have kind of covered it within our scope of thinking and seeing and digesting. And oh, I eat this and I eat that and I like this and I don't like a cold breeze when I sleep. All these different ways of looking at it. But when you start releasing and having time, like we do it here on the Wisdom Wednesday, where it's like an opening, a surrendering to the space, surrendering to the guidance, then you might actually start experiencing that your mind might lighten, your emotions might lighten, your body might lighten. And it might also go through some darkness, some sickness, or some emotions might coming out and thoughts. I can do this myself, or I'm the best in the world, or I'm like, I don't like my family, or like all kinds of weird thoughts. Like all these different belief systems are kind of ingrained in us, kind of as we kind of took them on, we're a little baby. So it's kind of allowing it to kind of release again and start to kind of remember the curiosity and ease that is like the essence of our being. And when we start to remember, then that will kind of start affecting our body. And the body can go through different like layers of awareness, of consciousness that will start releasing as we start to allow ourselves to be guided. It's not a force. It's not something you can force. It's more of a guidance. It's more of surrendering and allowing it to happen, allowing this flow, this wisdom to come in, kind of almost from like outside, but the wisdom is always kind of from inside. It's like you go to bed at night, you suddenly just like, you have these dreams, and suddenly there's like different realizations happening, different weird dreams. You might have some dark dreams as stuff releases, and then suddenly there's more lightness that can come in. So this is kind of literally like allowing light, and that needs to take time because our body is kind of used to just squeezing and holding on to energy, but we can allow energy to come in and just disperse and just uplift us. So it's almost like we kind of feel like we have to fight against life, but instead we can flow with life when we realize that our being is naturally at ease with life, and everything that happens to us, there is a flow to it, and there's a wisdom to it. It just sometimes takes time to find that because we have to stay curious. So much of my job or joy is to kind of like help guiding this path as I have been guided. And as I looked at it through like the eyes of chiropractic or Tai Chi or different paths that I've tested out to see like that every path, different meditations, everybody looks at the body a little different, medicine, but then people have a tendency to forget the wholeness of the body, whole hell, or just hell. But it's the wholeness of kind of the integration, allowing all these parts, our sexuality, our physicality, our emotionality, our mentality, our spirituality, our soulfulness, soultality, all these aspects of ourselves to come in and kind of start to kind of bring wholeness and ease and peacefulness in our unity. So that was a little introduction, but every time it's a little different because the energy is always new, and the people in the space, whether it's Hervik or online, is always different, and people have different questions, and it kind of, because people are working on different things and different energies are coming up, so then we are taking all this and kind of creating this space where it can help to us accelerate and release and transform and bring wisdom to these. So because I've gone through this for a long time, I kind of have gone through most yes, I've gone through all these different kind of layers in my body, so I've kind of give me a connection that I could connect to these different spaces of being or places of being or different levels of consciousness. So everybody, you might talk with somebody, you might have a friend that go and they might explain it differently because they might not walk your path. Everybody's standing differently, like it's like a round table, and everybody's experienced differently. But eventually, by like hearing a little bit in the space of others, then as I share it, then it will be easier for you to surrender to the beauty of this path, the beauty which I call the ease of life. Sounds too easy, but it's ease. It's not always easy. It takes a commitment. It takes a perseverance. It takes a showing up. It takes a daring to give in the space. So, oh, beautiful. And I love all the people that is like texting and commenting on Instagram or on YouTube. And if you haven't followed me or subscribed, or please share to other people. And if you're in Norway, usually a little donation, 100 to 300 kroners on Vipps is a little heart gift into the space. And most of you guys know my numbers. And in America, some of you guys do PayPal or Venmo. And if you're wondering about it, you can always just DM me and how do I contribute in the space. Good. Good. Well, I will talk to you some guys soon, maybe a little bit later today. And for everybody else, thank you for showing up. And I will let me know what you felt or thought or questions, and I might bring it into the next time. And Beautiful. I love to see so many new people showing up and starting to see that open up to the potential of opening up to this body being, the spiritual being, this ease of life. So thank you guys, and I hope you have a beautiful Wednesday, or Thursday, or whatever time it is. 7 in Norway, 12 in Chicago, whatever time it is, and I will see you next time. Ciao. And yeah, in Norway, we are here, and I will call you and chat a little bit afterwards on Instagram here. Give me 2 seconds.